Hello, I'm Monica, and my stepmother hated me so much I had to move out. But let's start from the beginning. My mom died when I was around 3 years old, and it made my dad miserable because he loved her very much. For years, he was single, not even daring to start dating again. But when I was 14, he met Taylor. She kind of looked like my mother, but as I was told, she wasn't anything like her in terms of character. My dad asked me if I would be okay with this, and of course, I said yes because I wanted him to be happy. Soon they married, and Taylor moved in with us, together with her son James, who was 12 at the time. At first, everything was all right. My dad and Taylor loved each other very much, and James was quite easygoing. I hadn't seen my dad so happy in years. But soon, I started to notice how Taylor was manipulating him. She would always make him adapt to her lifestyle, and if she did something wrong, she turned everything around so it was my dad who was at fault. I wasn't having any of it, and Taylor disliked my attitude and started treating me badly and always blaming me if something happened. Even if James did something, it was my fault. For example, she would get angry at me because I didn't wash the dishes, even if there was only one dirty plate, and James ate from it. It was me who got lectured by Taylor, and that's the least of things she would say or do. At first, my dad was trying to defend me, but she eventually made him think that she was right and I was a spoiled, ungrateful kid. She told me that I was stealing our money, and it wasn't true. And I don't know where she got this idea from. By this point, our entire family turned on me. Taylor was as condescending as ever, and if I tried to defend myself, my dad would go, "Don't talk with your mother like that." I, of course, answered, "She is not my mother and she never will be," which would make my dad angry. And James listened to all of this and started to see me as a villain too, and Taylor was turning him against me as well. Why did Taylor do that? I guess she didn't like how much attention my father was giving me, which was understandable because I am his daughter. Ugh. Seeing how Taylor took over our lives, I tried to talk to Dad, but he wouldn't listen. So I approached my grandparents, explained them the situation, and asked if I could move with them. They said yes, and they also disliked Taylor very much. I moved out. Both me and Taylor were happy about it. Living with my grandparents had its own difficulties, but it was way better than living with Taylor. My dad would call me every day and visit every weekend at first, but then he called and visited less and less, probably because Taylor was whining about how he didn't love her. My dad was trapped, but it was his decision, and while I still loved him, I couldn't simply overlook how he treated me. After a year, it felt like I wasn't part of the family at all, and I saw my father 2 times a month at best. At worst, it could go for 2 months without him meeting with me. One day he called me and said, "Honey, please come home. I talked with Taylor and she is okay with that." Seriously? Taylor is okay with that? I rudely answered my father, I would never even step into the house while she is still there. I expected my father to call, to apologize, to try to fix that, but it never happened. I understand that he was afraid to be lonely again, and I didn't mind him having a woman, but it wasn't okay how she treated me. Nothing helped, even when my grandparents tried to talk about it with him, so I completely gave up on it. 2 years had passed since, and he was still with her, and he was miserable again. By this point, I felt like my grandparents were my parents, and I had a lot of things going on in my life. My first serious boyfriend, school, and other stuff, so I didn't even think about it anymore. One day, to my surprise, James wrote me on Facebook. He was saying how sorry he was about how I was treated and that he didn't understand it at the time, but he wanted us to be friends, or at least not be enemies. I asked him what made him do that, and he told me all about his mom, Taylor, and how she only got crazier with time. Later, I met with James, and I was honestly proud of him because he was such a smart, good guy. He said that my dad was much better to him than his real dad ever was, and Taylor was mad every time he took his side. He said that he saw that father was tired, and maybe someday he would finally separate with her. James wanted us to be friends, even siblings, and support each other. And even if Dad and Taylor separated, he wished to stay in touch. I don't know what will happen in the future, and I'm still hurt about losing my dad. But at least I found a new family member who is a good person. I really miss my dad. Before Taylor, he was the best dad anyone could ever wish for. I hope that one day he would realize his mistake and that we can be a family again. For now, I can only wait. Have you ever been in a similar situation? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to share this video with your friends.